Emotions Matter, brought to you by emaw.com. That's EMAWW.com, your solution for emotional intelligence. Welcome to the Emotions Matter podcast. My guest on this episode is Eva Caraballo, who has spent a lifetime as an intuitive, providing a conduit for healing information, mentally, spiritually, and emotionally. Eva has multiple degrees in several healing arts, such as neurolinguistic programming, healing touch, and Reiki. Her extensive management experience and degree in business administration offer clients an additional level of perspective. Welcome, Eva. It's great to have you with us.
Thank you, John. I'm really, really happy to be here.
Terrific. Well, all right, let's just get started with, why don't you give our listeners some perspective as to how and when you discovered your gift?
Wow. Probably 2.5 years old, believe it or not. I always had this connection to knowledge or information coming from the world that was not coming from a human being and was not coming through their voices. And it was something that very, very young in age, I felt that, well, oh God, this is beautiful. Everybody could feel the stuff and everybody could hear this stuff and everybody knows this stuff. So I thought being human was really cool. Needless to say, when I turned 5 and joined school, I found out what a weirdo I was, but I loved myself for it. So I really have to say, I the first moment I probably was aware of it was at 2.5. I was actually sitting in my diaper in the middle of the kitchen, and my lovely mother, who has taught me many things of ways and means in which I would not want to behave, was in one of her moments. And I looked up to the sky and I looked up and I said, hey, God, did I really sign up for this? And so it's kind of a different way or a different perspective than I think most people have had. And since it's been it was part of me from the beginning, it was very hard to decipher and to explain to others what it is that I was feeling or sensing and how it was different from other people. So it was the beginning of my journey as far as, okay, now I'm doing this and it's not like everybody else. So how do I explain it? How do I make others understand and comprehend that they have this gift just like I do? And they could tap into it anytime. And how do I use the words? And especially as a young child, how do you tell adults, hey, this is what I'm feeling and sensing, and I know it's not real to you, but... So that's why all the degrees. I spent decades going through all different kinds of programs, and I became a minister, all kinds of things, trying to find the verbiage. How do I explain this? And now I'm, 6 decades later and saying, there's no need to, just do it. Just be me. Just give the information. So after all those years of trying to find the words, I'm finding out that I've always had the words. And that's what's beautiful about all of us, is that we always, always, always have all the gifts and tools we need for everything we signed up for. And it's just a matter of coming to that peaceful point where you can say, okay, calm down, center yourself. What am I really learning here? How do I view what's happening? And how can I be present as myself to help others in this present moment? And so that's a long-winded way of telling you, who knows? As far as how the gift came, how I did not get an illusion coming to this world in regards to that gift. I did not have a camouflage put up so I could experience the world differently in that regard. So it is a beautiful gift. And everyone has that gift, and it's just a matter of learning how to tap into it. I mean, everybody has intuition.
Hmm.
Everybody has those wonderful feelings of, gee, I knew that was going to happen, or gee, I've been through this before, or God, I really understand that at a different level.
Hmm. So
And go
you
ahead.
actually do consider yourself an intuitive. Why don't you give our listeners maybe an idea of what it means to be an intuitive? And it sounds like you were getting ready to go into that.
Okay.
So what kind of skills really best describe this gift of being an intuitive?
Intuitive is being totally open to information, whether it be vibrational or, and what I mean by vibrational, this emotions and feelings and all the things that we create in this world has a vibration, a tone, a color. And I'm open to that. And I'm open to feeling it from the perspective of the individual I'm with. So it's kind of like getting yourself out of the way. And so I'm open channel. So I've kind of formed, if you could create a cylinder around your body, and you create the cylinder around your body and you put it up and you say, okay, this is me. Now everything else is from somebody else. And you sit there and you allow that energy to flow through you, but not of you.
Mhm.
It's something that you allow, like in our conversation now, I'm trying to tune into your voice and to your thoughts and what's going on and how to best serve right now in this moment, giving your listeners what they would love to hear or remember. Because all I do is give information or from a knowledge base of the universe, and I give them the information they forgot
They
because
forgot.
they forgot. We forgot that we were souls. We forgot that we're this beautiful light and soul brought to this world to act in different plays, to take on different costumes, to enjoy different feelings and polish who we are. And in so doing, we created all these little plays to act in, but we're not the character.
Mhm.
We're just these beautiful souls experiencing feelings and emotions so we can understand better who we are and eventually bring it back to the whole.
So,
So,
Eva, is there a difference between, well, let's just talk about the intuitive nature of someone? Say, do people have different levels of being able to, let's call it, expand their intuitive function relative to different emotions? Say, for instance, you have
mhm,
the emotion of love, you have the emotion of fear, you have the emotion of anger, etc. Is there a
mhm.
different level of intuitiveness that people have relative to specific emotions?
No, absolutely not. The only difference is that an intuitive, or when you want to tap in to the intuitive part within you, uh, you stop and you tune into the love within yourself, for self first, and then the love for others. And in tuning into that love, you start seeing things from that perspective. So when I am tuning into, if you came into my healing room and you walked in, I put myself aside and I look at myself as a loving energy or a loving emotion who's going to view your world on your perspective on a screen and help you evaluate where you are so you could find your way back to who you are. That sounds more confusing in my explanation. It's more like I wrote a book called Mommy and My Robot. And the reason I wrote it was I was trying to explain to my grandchildren different things. And, grandma's the weird one, and she does all these weird things, but she always knows things that nobody else knows. So it comes in handy. Okay. So my, my beautiful Ashton came to me, and he's talking about different things. And I said, how can I explain this to Ashton? I says, hey, Ashton, you love robots, don't you? And he goes, yes, 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 yes. And I said, we're kind of like robots. We have minds, and they're like radios, and it gets all these frequencies and vibrations coming into it. And we have to tune it into that which we want, that which we feel, that which who we are. And sometimes we get really yucky vibrations coming in from other people, and it hits us as being sad or bad, and we have to tune out that frequency, that feeling, that an emotion, so we could stay in the loving mode that we started. So the first thing as a kid, you got to start tuning out the stuff that's no good for you. If it doesn't feel right, tune it out. Tune into what's really good. Tune into the love. Tune into the relationship. Tune into the fun. Tune into the happiness. Tune into what's good, and stay in that mode. And then as a robot, we could tune into that. That's what's really cool, is that we can choose. And that's the beautiful thing of coming down to earth, is we choose what vibration we want to vibrate to. We choose the thoughts we want to keep. We choose where we want to be. And a lot of people have lost the knowledge that it's our choice. It's our choice to take this negatively. It's our choice to take it positively. It's our choice to be in the moment and not look at the emotions that are being battered at us, like all these vibrations being sent to us, and stay centered and say, hey, that's not my problem. This guy's really hurting. Look how angry he is. He's really angry. Why is he angry? And then you just listen to the words and you try to pick out, the anger is not to me, it's of him for something he's frustrated about. And trying to figure out, what is he so frustrated about that he's seeing in me? What am I frustrating him with? And looking at it from the other person's perspective and trying to pick out where the pain is coming from, because anger is just pain. It's an emotion of pain. And if you could get through the verbiage and the actions and the human yelling and screaming and arm actions and all that mental and emotional thing that's going on, and you can say, okay, wait a minute, this guy's angry. He's not angry at me because I didn't do anything. What's he angry about? What is he hurt about? And you can feel it. And that's where intuition is. You can feel it. That's why you're getting uncomfortable. You could feel it. That's why you want to walk away. You could feel it. That's why you want to batter back that energy, probably sometimes in anger, just to stop that energy from reaching you. So it's very hard to say to the world, I am responsible for my own reaction to what you are saying and doing. It's hard to remember that we're beautiful souls that are coming here to learn, and always saying to ourselves, what am I learning from this situation? Not this person's yelling at me. What can I learn about this poor soul who has pain? And how can I just go to him as he's being angry and give him a beautiful hug? Because you see past the anger and you see a person is hurting. And if you look at it through that way, you could just go to that person and give them a hug. And sometimes that's all someone needs to be centered again in who they are. They let this emotion take over them because they're confused. They don't understand. They don't know how to handle something. They're frustrated. And it all turns into this anger. And if you could just take it back to the basics, okay, you're angry about something, no big deal. But you're a beautiful, loving soul. You need a hug. And it diffuses. It diffuses those vibrations that don't function. When I was reading the questions you were going to ask, you had a question about how do you, if you had a mom who is in the middle of chaos and she's just so out of it. Oh my God, there's so much going on. Blah, 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 blah. And I was thinking about that and said, yeah, I remember those days. I had 2 kids and a husband to raise. Ha ha. Yeah, that's when you retreat to the toilet because it's the only sanctuary you have to get yourself centered and to calmly put yourself in a position. Okay, this child is learning and experiencing this world, and this is what they're feeling right now. And this child is over here, and they have a totally different perspective on life. And this is what they're going through, and this is how they're perceiving what's going on. Okay, let me take a minute. Okay, for Johnny, I'm going to have to direct him that when he feels like that, he's got to stop and think about why he's feeling like that first and not blame his brother. And then tell Harry, well, Harry, he's younger than you. He hasn't learned the skills yet to stop, look, and listen to what the other person is saying. So he's just reacting real quick, and he doesn't have the skills you have of knowing that he's younger than you, and he doesn't have those skills. So instead of getting angry with him, teach him, hey, honey, when that happens again, and I say something that makes you feel bad, just say, hey, that made me feel bad. Why did you say that? And then a discussion could ensue instead of an argument or anger being shouted back and forth. So being a mom, you truly have to remember very often that you are a loving, beautiful person with lots of energy, and you chose to have these beautiful souls come through you, not of you. They came through you because they knew you were a gift to them, and that you could help them grow and mature and gain the tools they need to grow. And when you put yourself in the teaching mode instead of the mommy mode and say, okay, I'm their teacher, and not get emotionally involved with this one's angry and this one's beating up on the other one, and not look at the emotion that's happening, but look at the dynamics. You know, what do I teach this one to get him out of this mode? And what do I teach that one to make him understand? And so chaos is simply an emotion where you allow the people around you and their emotions to get inside of you, which confuses who you are. So as a mom, you need to learn to center yourself in who you are, this beautiful soul who chose 2 children, and be their teacher. Mm-hmm. And that brings a peace. It brings a real peace to you to be able to see things clearly and then take it from there. And I think anytime, God, I've been in lots of chaos where you feel there's a volcano erupting over here, a tornado over there, and God Almighty, now it's thundering and raining on me at the same time. And if you take all those 3 things and separate them from yourself, this is happening over here to somebody else. This is happening over here to somebody else. The environment is nourishing this earth right now by making it rain. Why is it my problem? None of it is my problem. My problem is the way I'm perceiving it.
So, Eva, you've been talking quite a bit about now the emotional healing in your practice. Mm-hmm. Is it different for your process to get people through specific emotions? Is it different between anger or, say, someone that's got a sustained grief in their heart or in their life? Is it different?
No, to me, I feel the energies as the same. It's just manifesting into something different. Let me try to give you a good example. Grief and anger, really, really good, strong emotions. And I want to go back to the first thing I do when I meet somebody. I tell them, my Bible is the dictionary. And that throws them off. Oh, you're an intuitive. That's a woo thing. What are you talking about? A Bible. I mean, a Bible being a dictionary. And what are you talking about? Logic. Well, intuition is based on the logic and the knowledge of the universe and the reasoning behind the dictionary meaning of a word. And people say, "What are you talking about? We're talking about intuition." I said, "Yeah, it's the same thing. All I'm doing is I'm sensitive to the reasoning and the knowledge and the wisdom behind your emotion. When you are angry, your emotion is that of pain. You have pain somewhere, or you would not be angry. You would be at peace with what's happening. And the pain had to originate somewhere. So I don't look at it as anger as the issue. I'm looking at the pain within you. And then with grief, it's the same thing. I'm not looking at as grief is just the vibration that you're vibrating right now, and anger is just the vibration, but the core of what you're feeling is hurt. It's a pain. And if you go to the individual's pain in that moment and let everything else fall to the wayside, you're going to the core of the problem and healing it in the blink of an eye. So a lot of people get caught up in, "Oh, well, you're an intuitive. That means this." No, don't label people. People are not one label. They are not polished or painted with one color. There are all kinds of colors. There are all kinds of frequencies. We're beautiful. Oh, God, if you could see what we look like. The colors and the vibrations that come from our heart is just beautiful. And so what happens is language is trying to stuff this beautiful soul into this little tiny pocket. And so we stuff everybody into these tight little girdles that we want them to live in. Well, you're an intuitive, so this is what you are, or you're angry, this is where you're at, and you're in grief, this is where. But no, it is not that. It's not the labels we've given it. It's what we're feeling.
Mhm.
And taking our feelings, taking control over our feelings, and understand why we are feeling this, and loving ourselves while we're going through the hurt and the pain, and saying, "God, if I'm angry with somebody, they were in their own little world, they were so angry, and they said so many hurtful words. And the only people that could hurt us are people we care about and love."
Mhm.
And if you look at it that way, everybody could hurt us, because we're all one organism. We're all this one beautiful, loving organism. And if one person's attacking the other person, it's going to affect everybody.
Mhm.
I don't know if that answered the question, but I'm trying to get you a perspective of how I view healing,
Mhm.
how I view emotions. The dictionary meaning of emotion is a strong feeling deriving from one's circumstances. And I'm going to stop there. Circumstances change with the blink of an eye, because with a little bit of knowledge that circumstances change. It's derived from one's mood. Your mood is emotions in that particular moment in time. But if somebody touched your shoulder or gave you a hug, again, in an instant, that mood changes. And it derived from one's relationship with others. Our relationships with others are constantly growing and changing. So even that is not permanent. So in basic dictionary language, emotion is not permanent. What we are feeling is not permanent. It's derived from circumstances, mood, and relationship. It has nothing to do with permanency.
Mhm.
And when we are in anger or we are in grief, we feel that it is permanent, that we can't get out of this box. We're stuck in this box and we can't get out. And seeing it as a non-permanent emotion, you go to the next definition of emotion. Emotion, and it's the little dot that comes after the definition. Instinctive or intuitive feeling, distinguished from reasoning or knowledge.
Mhm.
This is in the dictionary. You know what I mean? It's like, it's telling you emotion is a temporary feeling from circumstances, mood, and relationship. And emotion can be an instinctive, intuitive feeling. You feel it in your heart. You know the feeling the minute it starts, but you could distinguish it from reasoning and knowledge. You could take the emotion and reason with yourself and tune into that point of pain and say, why do I feel that pain? I feel it because I love this person so much. It feels horrible to think that person really believed the words they just used, you know? So I look at emotion so differently. It's a fluid cloud. It's a fluid cloud that is going around the universe. And when you get the emotion, it means that within those circumstances, within that relationship, that is the cloud, whether good or bad, that's the cloud that's enveloped you.
Mhm.
And you use reason. Okay, why am I grieving? Well, this person died and I was with them for 36 years. And I no longer have their presence. And human beings need familiarity. They need a constant. And so that constant and familiarity is gone now.
Mhm.
So I need to ground myself in something different. But the reasoning and the knowledge is this beautiful soul has passed to the other side, is totally happy, is no longer encumbered by the brain and the body to camouflage feelings and emotions and who they are. And back to being this beautiful, wonderful spirit without the pain and the anguish they had on earth.
Mhm.
So I guess my gift is being able to feel where the person is and root out the actual essence of the problem and let them find the peace that they need within themselves to come to an understanding that I'm going through grief. It's natural because I'm no longer in my own environment, the environment I've had for 36 years. I need to develop a new environment. That's scary. Yeah, okay, you could be afraid. It's something new, but you could take that fear and make it excitement that you'll be creating a new world for yourself. And so it's just taking the perspective and through the blink of an eye, through a word, through a touch, allowing the person to move beyond that little cloud that floated in and let them be centered again in the peace and the love of who they really are. And I think I know someone is healed when they can look in the mirror and accept who they are fully and say, I love you to themselves.
Mhm.
To be able to reason through all the emotions to understand that they're okay and they are a beautiful soul. You know, they were hurt or wounded as a child when they didn't have the capacity or knowledge to know mommy and daddy were yelling at each other with their problems. I took it on as it was my problem. And now that I'm 33 years old, I realize I'm not that little baby that doesn't understand that anymore. I could look at my 2.5-year-old person and say, hey, you're only 2.5. You couldn't understand that what was going on. But now you know that was their problem. You know, you weren't the cause. You weren't the reason your parents broke up. You weren't the reason somebody got hurt. You just happened to be there during those circumstances, and you put on this emotion that was given to you, but that emotion is not you. It's just an emotion.
In an earlier part of your conversation, what you were describing, you talked about environment, and you've
Mm-hmm.
spoken about having an awareness of how we influence our environment, and subsequently how our environment responds to what we're putting out there in the world. So if
Yes.
you could, walk us through some examples where you might have helped a client work through the process of improving or creating what you call
A
the
new
lifescape.
lifescape.
Yes, the
A new
lifescape.
lifescape. Unfortunately, and it's just through the process that we have created as a society, we create a lifescape. We as individuals, as we're growing from 2.5 to whatever age we may be today, We have seen different things in the environment, and we have instilled within us that this is the environment that exists all the time. So what we're saying is, if I was raised on Long Island, New York, well, there's always water on two sides of the land. We get a lot of moisture, and there's always mosquitoes. Now, if I never left Long Island and came to this beautiful desert, I would not know that there is an environment that doesn't have mosquitoes 90% of the seasons, and I wouldn't know that water doesn't flow beautifully on the ocean on one side and quietly on the other on the sound in every place you go. And I wouldn't know that the beautiful greens and the blues that I was used to, that I thought every environment exists because that's what I was raised in. This is what it looks like. This is what it feels like. This is what it smells like. And if I wasn't introduced to the desert, I wouldn't have been able to be influenced that, well, wait a minute, the deserts are browns and goldens and pinks, and every so often you get your greens. And it's a different environment. And those who flourish in one environment and haven't experienced different environments to know that they are their beautiful soul no matter which environment they're in, they have fear when the environment changes. And when I'm saying creating your own lifescape is being able to see who you are, the beautiful person you are all the time, no matter what environment you're in, whether you're drowning in that ocean or starving for water in the desert, that you are always that beautiful person and will find the resources within yourself to deal with your environment, to deal with your emotions, to deal with the people that come into your life. And Lifescape came from, I was in landscaping for a long time. I was, believe it or not, in construction to make money in my younger years. You go into a backyard and it's totally devoid of anything. And you imagine what you would like to see there. What would this look like if it was perfect, if it was beautiful, if all your senses became part of that environment? What would that lifescape, that landscape be like? And people never stop to say to themselves, what kind of lifescape do I want? I want it to be fulfilling. I want to feel good in it. I want to feel like I am helping others in it. I want it to be happy. I want it to vibrate to the energy of good. I want to give all that I've got to everybody because everybody wants to be the best that they can be. But first, you have to make your lifescape. Do you want to live in pain and sorrow? No, who does? So why are you doing it? Well, I don't know how to get out of it. And that's where I come in. I've seen the roads. I feel the roads. I see where you need to go to get out of it. And in the blink of an eye, with a touch or the right words, you can be open to see what you did not see before. And coming from Long Island, a perfect example would be I came to Arizona during the night. I have never been to Arizona before in my life. And the first mental vibration that came to my mind is, oh my God, it's so brown. And they put block walls to imprison you around it. And that's how I viewed what I had just seen, all these cement walls around everything. Now, all I had to be told was, well, gee, there's scorpions and coyotes and wild boars and snakes. And because this community loves their people, they decided that before any construction is made, that they have to build the cement wall around the community to protect those beautiful people inside. Well, now no longer was it a prison, it was a sanctuary.
Mm-hmm.
So if I wasn't given that information, I would still be looking at it as prison walls. So it's knowledge, and that's where I go back to emotion, back to the instinctive, intuitive feeling, distinguishing from reasoning or knowledge.
Mhm.
That the emotion that I was in a prison was in a blink of an eye changed by realizing it was done to be a sanctuary.
All right.
And so it's a simple knowledge. It's a simple logic. And in short, intuitiveness is being able to get into the logic and the reasoning and the knowledge of why it is truly there. Grief is there as a way for you to deal with emotions that are all coming together, and they're saying, okay, it's okay to be in grief. You're going through a mourning stage. What the mourning stage, think of it, it's a mourning stage. It's the beginning of a new morning. It's a beautiful new life ahead. But in order to go ahead, you have to let go of the past and let it go with peace and love. This person has gone on to a beautiful world. I thank God that he is happy or she is happy and she's without pain or the anguish of the mind or trying to get through all these little plays that we've created in the characters that we've chosen and believing they were those characters instead of those souls. They're back to being these beautiful souls, very happy and joyful. And so they have peace. And then that brings peace to me.
Mm-hmm.
And when we are engrossed in grief or even in anger, we've gone down what I call the rabbit hole, that you think that emotion is the only thing that is encapsulating you. And you keep twisting it in and twisting it in and twisting it in and going down the rabbit hole. And it just takes one person taking their arm and pulling you out of the rabbit hole and hugging you and saying, you don't have to live in that rabbit hole. Let's deal with the grief. Let's deal with the feelings and the emotions. What's hurting? If it's hurt for the person, look how beautiful and how happy they are now. And I can actually talk to the other side and tell them what's going on. So that's another advantage. But the other side of that is what you're initially doing is just changing your lifescape. You're changing your environment. It's scary. But what's beautiful about it is you choose. You have the beautiful choice of making it the way you want it now. And this is where attraction of positive, whatever you put into the world, you get 10,000 fold back.
Mm-hmm.
All those things, that's true. It is a true basic principle of energy. That which you send out is what you receive.
Mm-hmm.
So knowing that, you choose your words wisely. You stop and you say, I am not going to send anger out. I'm going to try to explain to someone where I am. And I start with, I feel hurt because I cannot deal with or know how to deal with what's happening right now.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the opening that allows others to come in and help you, to feel you, to know you, and help you through it.
So, Eva, you work with both adults and children in your teachings and methodologies.
Yes.
Is there give us some perspective as to if there is a difference in your approach between the age groups?
Oh, wonderful. I have to say, I love babies. I love children because they're still open to that wonderful reasoning and intuitive knowledge. They are so open to it. And they're this wonderful, bright, I see them this white glowing light with all this beautiful energy going through them. They're not jaded yet. They haven't allowed the thoughts to block them. They haven't let emotions block them. And they're open to who they truly are. And you can really tap into that energy and allow them to see what beautiful souls they are, that they have all the tools they need, how to tap into those tools. They are God's gift to the world. Look at a 2.5-year-old. I mean, the joy they have in just exploring the world. They don't criticize themselves because to try to get up and learn how to walk, they pulled the tablecloth off the table and everything came crashing to the ground. They think it's fun and funny because, oh, listen to all those beautiful sounds that hitting the floor, and they see it and they feel it differently. So they're open before people put them in their girdles and say, well, no, that is bad. You broke dishes. And starting to put them in these little girdles that you can't do this because people don't like it. And look, that loving mother is now looking at you with an angry face. And now you're being punished or yelled at, you know? So I think the beauty of children is that they're still open to who they truly are. And if you could catch them early enough before we program them in our society, they can have the strength they need to do anything their little hearts desire. And I just adore working with children. It's simpler then.
So the
With it,
question, though, is
uh-huh.
how do you get an adult who's had all of this
Mm-hmm.
environmental programming
Mm-hmm.
back to, having the open mind of a child?
Oh, and sometimes it's so easy. I think because I see it as easy and it could be done in the blink of an eye, I'm not girdled into thinking, well, you have to do this and you have to say this and you have to go through this program and it's going to cost you $10,000 to achieve this thing. And then when you do, then we'll get you into another program, will cost you more. And these paradigms that people have put in front of them have to be shredded. And it's basically coming back to the essence of who they are. So when they are present, when a person is present, I'm feeling their beautiful energy and who they truly are. And I'm reminding them constantly about how much they have to offer and how beautiful they are. And I could see the gifts that they came to bring. And I can explain how they've camouflaged those gifts or put them aside or stopped feeling it or stopped thinking of it. And I do what they call etheric healing, which is another really woo-woo term. But basically, I could feel the energy that made them get girdled into a block where they can't pass that. They can't get past that. Well, what happened then? And they can't get past it. And I could actually see it and feel it and sense it and vibrationally to let them know, okay, when you were 5 years old, remember a time when this happened. And if they could remember, it's wonderful because sometimes it takes you going through their whole life to go back to the root of where it started. And getting them there and saying, okay, that belief system, we are what we believe. You were this beautiful soul before that happened. You felt it. You enjoyed life. It was exciting, and you just had this zest for life, and it was encapsulated. It was girdled in with an emotion, or the circumstances, or a mood, or a relationship. And let's look at that relationship. Let's look at that mood. Let's look at what had happened. You were only 5 years old, so you didn't have the reasoning or the knowledge or the skills to actually make a determination of what all that was.
Mm-hmm.
Let's take it apart and look. It wasn't you, was it? It was circumstances, mood, relationships, others, what happened to others, the environment, the lifescape that existed. And when you learn that in the blink of an eye, you can erase something and replace it with something beautiful, do it, you know? And so when I say lifescape, a lot of people have a very hard, dark lifescape because their emotions have been entrenched and girdled into them. And it's a matter of releasing them from that, giving them the freedom to create their own lifescape without the pain. But what's beautiful is that everything gives us a lesson. So whether it's good or bad, feels good or bad, is bright yellow or dark green, murky green, it's giving us a lesson. So if we could take our emotions and put them on the wall like a screen and say, okay, it's not in me right now. What do I see? I see a murky green and it's sad and it's horrible and whatever. Okay, is that you or the emotion? Well, it's the emotion on the wall. It's not me. Okay. So as a person, as the beautiful soul you are, let's take it and erase the murkiness and paint a bright sunshine. And that's what's beautiful about our minds, is that we're very visual, and you can simply change the picture in your mind and it changes your total internal being. And so these are all the tools I'm trying to verbalize that I feel and I know and have 1000% assurance that what I'm feeling and knowing and sensing and information that I'm getting for any one individual is for that particular individual only in that particular moment to help them with that particular situation. And so I find it very hard to encapsulate and girdle in that which I know to sell to the public, because it cannot be girdled in. It cannot be encapsulated. And what I do is an art form that I was so gifted and lucky to have developed. And I've experienced mine. I was in a wheelchair for 7 years and told I wasn't going to come out of it, and now I'm running around. I was told I was going to die 3 times, and I didn't. And I wasn't going to walk, and I'm running. So I've been there, and I think that's what's beautiful is I can be compassionate, I can be passionate, I can be empathetic, but I could put all those things aside and help somebody logically reason through what they're at.
Well, I also noted that you practice some techniques which are physical in nature. Give our listeners some perspective as to the healing touch or Reiki that you are able to practice.
Wonderful, wonderful question. Early before Sanskrit, human beings were able to heal each other. The Japanese and the Chinese both have put it into written form really early on. And one of the forms, it's called Reiki, which you can find in every culture as a healing modality, but it's been girdled into a different word or a different version of itself. And it's basically it's not physical, where if you could see you are a cell, you have a nucleus which is hard, which people say is the physical. But when I say physical, I see your total shell, I see the total cell, and I see your physical as a nucleus and this beautiful aura or cytoplasm and all the different mitochondria and everything going around you. And so when I do Reiki, what I am doing is I'm going into that etheric field that surrounds your nucleus and fixing it. It's called vibrational healing by most, and there's all different types of vibrational healing, just as though there are different religions, because everybody is vibrating to a different frequency. So whatever frequency helps heal you, go for it. And so this frequency allows me to pick out those blocks where you could literally lay down and I don't even touch your body. And I go through your etheric 7 layers. And I know that this layer was developed when you were 2, and this layer was when you're a teenager, and this is when you were an adult, and this is when this. So when I go through the layers and I see a block, I could actually pick out, okay, you were 5 years old when this happened. And I could energetically release you from it. But when the etheric healing is complete, then we have to work on not allowing that block to continue. So we have to go to the root issue. And when you were 5, this is what happened. This is what you felt. This is what you thought of yourself. You do realize now, looking at it at a screen and the emotions that I'm talking about, that as an adult looking at that poor child being in these circumstances, you understand the circumstances now. You know it's not your fault. You know that feeling should never have been instilled into you as a child, but our ignorance allowed it to happen. And now, with the intelligence and the experience and the beautiful soul that you are, you can now eradicate that. And then that would stop that energy from forming in your cytoplasm.
Mm-hmm.
All this happens when the person wants and is ready to be healed. And this where comes the most important part of all this, is that we have been blessed with the freedom of choice. So when people come to me, they have chosen to heal themselves, to get rid of an energy that no longer serves them. And I am just the conduit in which they can accomplish that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's as simple as it is. But it's the person doing the work. It's the person's choice. And I'm a conduit to help them keep that healing part of their body where they no longer have that problem.
Terrific. Well, this has been incredibly fascinating. You have an amazing perspective, and it sounds like your practice is really doing some fantastic work with a lot of wonderful people. Let me ask you something. So our listeners can gain insight to your practice at caraballoconsortium.com. Are there any other places where our listeners might find your teaching, guidances, books, etc., or maybe possibly see or hear you live?
Probably with this recording, it's the first time I've allowed myself to challenge myself to verbally express that which I know. But no, I have been busy with other projects. One of them was called Soul Sentience, and there's a YouTube video about soul sentience out there somewhere.
Can you spell that for us?
It's SOULSENTIENTS.
Great.
And quite frankly, when I was told to call it soul sentience, I said, "What? Spell that for me." So I too experience what everybody experiences. Are you kidding me? And but I've learned to just go with it and enjoy the beautiful things that happen. And I've enjoyed miracles all my life. Miracles are part of my being already, because it is. Everyone can have a miracle. Everyone is a miracle. It's a miracle that these beautiful souls chose to create themselves into these girdled bodies, to stop themselves from being who they truly are, to experience feelings and emotions to make them better, to go back to the whole. I mean, what a beautiful group of souls we have to put ourselves through this.
Well, I'll tell you what, this has been really enlightening, and I sincerely appreciate all the time that you've taken to be with us and share with our listeners today on the Emotions Matter podcast.
I am so grateful for the opportunity, and I do pray, and I know the vibration, at least, if not the words, will reach the hearts and souls of many, and let them know that, God, you're beautiful, and just remember that.
Thank you so much, Eva. We really appreciate you being on the show. Once again, this is John. I look forward to having you with me on the next episode of the Emotions Matter podcast.